the Madman. Welcome to a look at the new Titans cards revealed today. 12 neutral cards, some good, some bad, some ugly. Let's take a look, starting with Flame Behemoth. It's a legendary 6 mana 4/5 mech with Battlecry, get 2 random magnetic mechs. They cost 2 less. Since you're getting a discount of 4 on your 2 random magnetic mechs, then this card could be considered a 2 mana 4/5 draw 2. That's quite good. Obviously though, the way that the mana system works is paying up front for value that comes later does not quite work that way. So it is not a 2 mana 4/5 draw 2, but if you have a slow enough deck, or if you have a value oriented deck, this works. Now the big question is, are the magnetic mechs good? And that is going to be where we're going to have to see the entire set revealed, because there's bound to be a few magnetic mechs out there. Some are going to be good, some are going to be bad. So let's talk about Mecha-Leaper, which is another magnetic mech that got revealed. 3 mana 2/2 mech beast with magnetic and death rattle. Give a friendly mech +2/+2 and this death rattle. This card is not so good generated by Flame Behemoth, but in a dedicated mech deck, it's quite good. It's one of those snowball cards which looks really good until you realize this is not Battlegrounds. Your minions and their minions do not randomly attack each other in trade. In actuality, you're going to get AoE'd, and then your Mecha-Leaper and the other mech will die at the same time, and there will be no death rattle given, and you'll be sad. Mecha-Leaper, pretty specifically for a tempo-y mech deck. Snowball-y cards like to be played on tempo mech decks. The other magnetic card revealed is Containment Unit. 7 mana 6/6 mech with magnetic, death rattle, summon a random 8 cost minion. Containment Unit is particularly relevant to me as I've played a lot of Arena, and I remember Plagued Proto-Drake being quite the value card. 8 mana 8/8 death rattle, summon a random 7 cost minion. So Containment Unit is quite a lot better than Plagued Proto-Drake, since comes out a turn earlier, you summon a card that is 1 cost more than the Plagued Proto-Drake. It's got magnetic, which is quite the buff. That's +6/+6 on a minion that's mech. And then the death rattle is very significant. If you can put this on a low value mech and then trade it to some sort of high value card and then summon a random 8 cost with it, that's actually a pretty fast use of the card. And you've paid 7 mana to get an 8 cost with like almost comes with a 6/6 with rush. However, needs to fit into some sort of mid-range mech deck, so pretty specific. I think without the magnetic usage of it, a 7 mana 6/6 death rattle, summon a random 8 cost minion is not quite enough, but also a death rattle deck might find this pretty interesting. Death Blossom Womper was found to be so strong that it actually had to get nerfed. But that is a card that Death Blossom Womper will want to consider. While we're talking about magnetize, here's Invent-o-matic, a 2 mana 2/3 mech. Whenever you magnetize a minion, give it +1/+1. It's a pretty minor effect. I doubt that magnetize will become such a big deal that Invent-o-matic will be good. That is not a lot of value achieved over time, and it is not really a snowball-y enough card. Okay, now let's take a look at a few cards that are ugly. They're also bad, but they're so bad that they kind of became ugly. Razor Scale, 3 mana 2/4 dragon. Cards can't cost less than 2. So this is obviously some sort of anti-combo card, specifically aimed against combo decks that are going to try to win the game by playing a lot of cards that cost 0 or 1. And then suddenly, pow! You have to pay 2 mana for them. Ha! Take that. Unfortunately, the Razor Scale plan relies on like having this effect not even be a battle cry, it's just like an aura effect. So as soon as you remove this 4 health minion, they can just go ahead and do their combo anyways. You paid 3 mana for a 2/4, which is obviously terrible stats, to try to stop the combo deck. But the combo deck will be able to pay 2 mana to remove Razor Scale, probably. Plus, how can you time it so that you specifically target the turn that they're going to go off of the combo and you play your Razor Scale? It's just I don't get this card at all. It makes no sense. The card is mind-boggling bad. In fact, the fact that it's a dragon actually makes this next card worse. Time Lost Proto-Drake, 4 mana 4/5 dragon, taunt. When you draw this, add a random dragon to your hand. So pretty much when you include this Time Lost Proto-Drake into your deck, which you are going to because it is very similar to Pack Mule, which was included in a number of decks, Time Lost Proto-Drake is actually better because the average dragon you're going to get is going to be better than a 2 mana 2/3 taunt. So it's a 4 mana 4/5 taunt, which when drawn gives you a random dragon, which could be huge. I am going to be including this in a bunch of my control decks, I imagine, because it's just free value. There are a number of great dragons in the late game that are value here, so all you have to do is hope you don't draw a Razor's Skill. Next up, let's take a look at a bunch of Forge cards. XB488, Disposalbot. 5 mana 3/2, Battlecry, deal 5 damage randomly split among all enemy minions. Forge, gain lifesteal. Given that there's an easily comparable card to XB488, which is Dino-matic, and Dino-matic has seen absolutely no play and no interest in being played. Well, I mean, it's got 2 health less than Dino-matic, and sure, it randomly splits among all enemy minions, but Dino-matic often was going to do that anyways. Payment of 2 extra to Forge to gain lifesteal isn't a big enough deal, especially when we compare it with another card that we're about to see. So, this card's quite bad. Next up, we have Mecha-Gnome Guide, 4 mana 3/4 mech, Battlecry, discover a spell. Forge, it costs 3 less. With the Forge, having spent 2 mana on it, making this kind of a 6 mana card, this would be a 6 mana 3/4 mech, which discovers a spell, it costs 3 less. And boy, is that bad when you compare that with Nerubian Vizier. Now, Nerubian Vizier is an insane card. However, that's a 3 mana less to get a 1 mana smaller discount. All you had to do was play it in an undead deck or a deck with some undead. Yeah, this card just is very overcosted compared to Vizier. So for the reason that it's so bad compared to Vizier, I think it's pretty clear that this card won't be played. Watcher of the Sun is a 2 mana 2/3. Battlecry, get a random holy spell. Forge, also restore 6 health to your hero. So that's an example of a card that's just straight up good. The card without the Forge text of 2 mana 2/3, get a random holy spell may have been good enough value just by itself. The icing on top is the Forge allows you to, if you want to, and this is a big if, you certainly do not have to Forge the card. I think this is an interesting card where there are many times where you're going to want to play this without the Forge, but there are also many times where you are going to want to Forge it. A big reason of why you may want to Forge it is just to activate Ignis the Eternal Flame as well. So I could see this being played in a control deck alongside Ignis, and maybe there are some class cards that are appropriate with Forge, which will make Ignis even better in those specific classes. Watcher of the Sun, when forged, will get you to, like, basically you can pay 2 mana to heal 6 to your hero, and it doesn't cost an extra card, so it's like 2 mana, heal 6, don't spend a card for it, which is quite good. Sunfury Clergy is a card that's worth considering in a lot of control decks just for survivability. And this card is actually better than Sunfury Clergy, a card that you would consider putting into any control deck. And because you might want to put Ignis in a deck, that basically ties Watcher of the Sun to it almost automatically, because they go into the same types of decks, value, long-lasting decks. The Watcher of the Sun looks so good that Melted Maker actually looks pretty good. 3 mana 3/3 elemental, after you forge a card, get a copy of it. The way I see it is it's similar to a 3 mana 3/3 draw card, assuming that you have the Watcher of the Sun in your hand already. So 3 mana 3/3 draw Watcher of the Sun, and then you pay like an extra 2 mana to forge the Watcher of the Sun. The great deal is when you can actually forge 2 cards on the same turn, then it's kind of a 3 mana 3/3 draw 2 really good cards. Of course, you're going to have to spend 4 mana on forging cards that you were going to spend mana on eventually to forge anyways. So an interesting card. It gets better the more good forge cards there are. Another really good forge card I'd say that there is Embrace of Nature. As we see more class cards, perhaps there are going to be a few classes that are going to have better forge. Next up, we have a 3-mana 4/5. Wow. Careless Mechanist. After you draw your second card in a turn, destroy this. I think that stat line is finally one which is good enough to put into your general tempo deck. I don't think 3-mana 4/4 was enough, but 3-mana 4/5, like vanilla stat line, might be good enough. Now, it's a really specific deck that you're going to have to put this into. You have to put this into a deck that doesn't draw cards. Also, there is a mechanic in the set, Forge, which allows you to gain better effects without drawing cards. So you can pay 2 mana to Forge, which is similar to drawing a card because you're improving a card. So a specifically really good card for the stats, 3-mana 4/5, just has very specific restrictions on what type of deck you can put this into. And we're saving one of the best for last. I've got a Sharp Eye for cards. And I think Sharp-Eyed Seeker might low-key be the most overpowered card in this set. Sharp-Eyed Seeker is a 3-mana 3/3 beast with Battlecry. If there is a card in your deck that didn't start there, draw it. So immediately the obvious point to make out is, yeah, we couldn't print this card during the Quest Priest because Quest Priest would shuffle their win the game card into their deck, and then you could just play Sharp-Eyed Seeker to find it and then draw it. And that's like the first indicator of how Sharp-Eyed Seeker might be good. It draws the overpowered card that was too strong to put into your deck because the downside is you have to draw it. You have to find the card. Well, Sharp-Eyed Seeker tutors that specific card. You can actually have Photographer Fizzle potentially go infinite much easier now. You play the Photographer Fizzle, you take the picture of your hand, which includes a Sharp-Eyed Seeker. You play the Sharp-Eyed Seeker, drawing the photograph. After you bounce your Photographer Fizzle with your Shadow Step, by the way, you took a picture of the Shadow Step as well. So you're allowed to continue to generate a large number of cards for a very small amount of mana each turn, and all you have to do is find some sort of win condition. I know this because I've played Photo Rogue before. It wasn't quite good enough, but Sharp-Eyed Seeker might be that thing that makes it good enough. So that's a specific interaction with Photographer Fizzle, but this could find any overpowered card that you've put into your deck by jumping through a hoop, and then your Sharp-Eyed Seeker is paying 3 mana to have a 3/3, draw a really powerful card. A really exciting card, which could, like, that single card could create new deck archetypes.